Hello, everyone. Welcome to What the Hype's installment of a reaction episode to this week's episode of The White Lotus, Season 3, Episode 4. I'm here with Micah, my fellow White Lotus watcher on the What the Hype panel. How are you doing, Micah?
I'm good. I mean, we do have another one in Andrew, but I'm not sure if
I don't think he's up to speed yet, though.
is he not. He was blowing us up in the text chain about something he saw in tonight's episode.
Oh, see, I intentionally put my phone on do not disturb when I'm watching stuff like this so that I don't get like distracted from it before we're about to hop on and do this. But yeah, I think I can imagine what thing Andrew might have been blowing the group up about.
He was very curious how I would find a way to weave what happened on tonight's episode of The White Lotus into MuggleCast.
Oh, well, you have a few days to figure it out, and it is Jason Isaacs. So,
Well, I was thinking something along the lines of clearly not all of Lucius Malfoy's peacocks live on Malfoy Manor.
of course. So you already had that one ready.
It just came to me, some things just work themselves out. They present the opportunity, and wow, I was just as shocked as Piper, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I will say I was a little bit nervous, and I love that we're starting out our reaction here because I figured this would be where we started out. And spoiler warning, obviously, we're talking about season 3, episode 4 here. Uh, I got to see a lot more of Jason Isaacs than I ever thought I was going to see. I don't know if they used a
Were
body
you
double for that or not.
thinking that it was coming though? Because it was very reminiscent of a scene in season one where the robe was loose, and we all know that he's been taking his wife's medication.
Yep.
So he's not necessarily in the right state of mind. And, he went for a stretch and
Yeah, but you definitely saw it coming, and I started getting nervous because they made a point of showing you a shot of him where he was still covered, but you could tell that the robe was starting to slide open. And I was like, oh no, are they gonna do it? Um, they did.
they did.
Yeah.
You know what we all really need is the Tom Felton reaction video.
Oh my God. Oh my God. If somebody's not blowing him up right now, being like, we need you to go on TikTok and react to this. Lucius Malfoy post Harry Potter.
It was a pretty rough episode for Jason Isaac's character. Let's
It
be
really,
honest.
it really was. I mean, we can talk about like, yeah, he's definitely getting into his wife's lorazepam and developing quite a little pill habit here, but we can also talk about the fact that there's a reason for that. He's getting scared because he is pretty much cut off from what's going on. And it's very clear, made very clear in this episode, that he's been embezzling and signing off on a lot of fraud. And basically, this doesn't end well for he and his family in terms of like their current standard of living. It kind of sounds like that's not going to be able to continue
And didn't you,
because, yeah,
on the episode we did on the White Lotus, was it last week or 2 weeks? It was last week because it was
yeah.
after episode three had aired. Didn't you throw out there that you thought that perhaps the Ratliff family would be staying in Thailand or not be returning to the US? Or am I making that
Oh
up?
gosh, I don't remember if I said that exactly,
You have
but
so many good theories, you don't remember all of them.
jeez. Thank you. Listen, we're the Ravenclaws of MuggleCast, so I feel like we're always serving the best theories. We can be self-serving here, right? It's just the two of
Of
us.
course.
But I don't remember if I said that, but it's not a terrible idea, certainly. I mean, I think we definitely see it floated kind of towards the end of the episode when Timothy and uh,
Gary,
Gary slash
Greg.
Greg. Yeah, Greg Gary. Gary Greg. Like they're sitting there talking and Timothy gives the opinion, it seems like people who come here are either like running from something or they're searching for something. And Gary Gregg asks which it is for him. And Timothy says, "Oh, I'm just here on vacation with my family, but maybe something else." And it seems very likely that he's looking at this as a potential get out of jail free card, literally, staying in Thailand. We also see that Gary it has been avoiding questioning in Italy. So makes it pretty clear that's why he's here.
Yeah. And we also got a really nice shot of his home in Thailand at the very end of the episode. Quite a
Mm-hmm.
view that he has.
Right.
But just to go back to Tim for a minute, or Timothy for a minute, it felt a little too convenient that he was able to steal the gun at the end of the episode, that it was just kind of sitting there. And another piece that I want to tie in here too, and that is that it's clear that when Mook is around, that Gaitak is completely unfocused, and
Uh-huh.
we see with him like leaving the gun out, raising the barrier for them to walk into the White Lotus. Wasn't very clear if the barrier came back down even after they went through it. Also, I'm not even sure
Yeah.
why you need to raise it. Couldn't they just walk around it?
Yeah. It's not exactly a deterrent.
But
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that was a little bit of a clue as to what took place during the robbery, because it was
Mm-hmm.
very similar circumstances where Gaitak was distracted, in that case by Valentine, but it could be a little bit of a nugget there that
Mm-hmm.
maybe Mook was involved. There seems to be a lot more to her that
Yeah.
we don't know about, but
Oh, yeah.
clearly she's using Gaitak's attraction to her to some extent. We don't know what yet. Maybe it's totally platonic, who knows, but
I don't think
you don't
so.
think so. There's more there.
No. No, there's first of all, those two have so much chemistry. I don't know if you've seen any of the interviews with the actors. But
I
it's
did
very
hear her
yeah.
song on the radio the other day.
Oh
That's
yeah.
I do remember you mentioning from the last
Yeah.
episode. I was driving to the train station and the radio station mentioned that they were playing a song from whomever the actress is that plays Mook.
Yeah. So it's very clear the two of them have good great chemistry to begin with. And her character is a little too a little too cutesy, a little too intentionally demure. Like it's very clear that she keeps cropping up at opportune moments to distract Guy Talk as well. So I wonder who she's working with,
It's a
you
good
know.
question, and she made a point of wanting Gaitak to come and watch her during the show, which presumably is going to take place in episode 5. And I'm wondering, is that also going to distract him from something else that might be going on within the confines of the White Lotus?
Definitely. There's a lot of setup happening in this episode. Like we have that, but we also have the full moon party that certain characters are staying on board the yacht to go to at the end of this episode.
It's
We're
the
left
after
with
party essentially, right?
right.
That's what the moon party is going to be. It's the after party. All the adults and folks who don't want to stay have had enough of being on that yacht.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Lachlan and Saxon are staying on the yacht, which
Some of Saxon's lines in this episode were I don't know how you get away with it.
no, and also to me that screams of a young man who is trying to seem more experienced than he actually is. And it's definitely extremely obnoxious, but you can also tell that he seems to be taking a deep interest in making sure that Lachlan takes more after him than
Definitely.
after his
Yeah,
sister.
Piper was
I
not happy.
No, I'm still very unclear and kind of uncomfortable with the dynamic between these siblings.
Is it a bit of grooming on the part of Saxon with Lachlan?
Oh, like grooming to be a creep, bare minimum? Yeah.
Well, it's clear that Lachlan does look up to he actually he looks up to both of his siblings in
Mm-hmm.
different ways, but I think he's trying to present a cool factor to his brother. And what I saw in this episode actually is that Lachlan is more than capable of connecting with people through the magic tricks that he was doing.
Yeah.
He seemed to really be able to create conversation, and he didn't need to be saying really horn dog type of things to the people he was talking to in order to get them to react the
Yeah.
way that Saxon does.
Yeah, he's being genuine. He's just
Yeah, he's got
being
charm.
genuine, totally authentic charm. And yeah, it's kind of funny because you see in those moments, I think Lachlan is actually kind of showing Saxon up
Mm-hmm.
too. And I don't know if Saxon realizes it yet. I think he's too busy trying to get with Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
I keep forgetting her name for some reason. But that also, I think what I'm loving about this season is that it feels like a Charlie Day like yarn board where he has like all the crazy maps of yarn going to all these different events and people and places because so much of this is connected. Like you have the aspect of Saxon trying to like somehow groom his younger brother into being a weird like frat boy creep. But at the same time, he's also pursuing Chloe, which is getting Gary's attention. We know that's not a good situation for Saxon, potentially, if Gary's going to be jealous about that kind of scenario. So I just love how there are like multiple consequences for each thing that's happening in the season.
Part of me wonders, though, how much Gary actually cares about what Chloe does. I don't think there's any kind of romantic relationship going on here between the two of them. I
No.
think they're both serving each other's needs more than anything else. And look, we see that really clearly with a lot of the couples that we encounter on the yacht in this particular episode. But I just think he doesn't want people meddling in his plans.
Yeah. And I'm really curious to know how his job plays into those plans because we learn via Belinda that he works for the Bureau of Land Management.
BLM, as he told Tanya in season one,
Oh, that's right. That's
and she
right.
thought he worked for Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh man. Yeah, but it's funny because you do have this narrative where Belinda and Gary or Greg are starting to figure each other out, and we see both of them Googling each other in the in the middle and the end of the episode. So it's very clear that Greg is not going to be going to that full moon party because he has something to take care of at home. I'm pretty sure that thing is Belinda.
Right. And they had a pretty intense stare down in the
Mm-hmm.
hotel lobby when Belinda was walking in. Now, what we do see is him staring at a photo of Belinda and her son, and we know her son is going to be at the White Lotus tomorrow. Now, tomorrow may not necessarily be episode 5. If episode 5 is going to be this moon party, it may be episode 6, but presumably from what we see in episode 1, we can assume that her son is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know what goes on in between we don't know what kind of threats maybe Gary is going to make to Belinda to keep her quiet with everything that's going
Right.
on. It would assume that he may threaten her son.
Yeah. We also know that, I mean, timeline wise, we're like halfway through the season now. The season opened up with the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten to the point where the gun is missing now with Timothy. So, really, are we not going to see the answer to who's the shooter and who gets shot? Are we not going to get that until the very very end? Or is it going to be like in seasons before where the reveal comes a bit sooner and we get to see some of the aftermath of the event?
It's a good question. I would assume that season three would follow suit to seasons one and two, at
Mhm.
least in terms of us not getting a whole lot after the actual shooting happens. But who knows? This season could be totally different. It made me wonder too when we see Timothy take the gun. Is he going to be drugged out and just shooting all over the place?
Mm,
Could that be where this ultimately goes? We also hear him say that he'd rather be dead than go to jail.
mm, yeah,
So
that's true.
we
Oh
could be looking
man.
at multiple situations here where maybe Timothy decides to take his own life as a result of what's going on, and that the shooting has absolutely nothing to do with him.
Yeah, so you think like maybe he does that and then the monkey comes and gets the gun and starts shooting like we talked about
Maybe.
on the episode where we covered this. I think it's still a pretty popular fan theory that
Yeah,
actually kind of like in previous instances with White Lotus, the actual inciting event turns out to be something like a bit anticlimactic and kind of goofy, like falling off a boat and dying
right.
instead of being murdered like you were going to be originally.
And with Armand in season one,
Yeah.
he was really just trying to stick it to the one guest that he didn't like, who was giving him a hard time for the entire season, and that person didn't even mean really to kill him. He died pretty much by accident. So
Yeah. That
that's
guest stuck it to him,
yeah.
literally.
But he did shit in his suitcase, so he did get the last laugh,
Yeah.
kind of. But the whole idea of the monkeys potentially getting the gun and shooting it, it speaks to, we talked a little bit about this on the episode that we did, not respecting the environment, not respecting the culture that you're in. And I thought we got a lot more of that in this episode, particularly with our girls' trip. They were not respectful at all of what was going on in town when they were getting, you know, like relax a little bit. Like you're getting
Yeah.
hit with super soakers. Like these are kids. But again, if this is actually a tradition that this town has around the full moon, who are you to shit on their parade?
Yeah. Exactly. I did find myself wondering if Valentine was trying to set them up because at first he sent them to what was very clearly I think Jacqueline described it as like a budget escape for retirees
Yeah.
or something like that. Like I don't know. I feel like he sent them there and then he sent them into the middle of this, water gun tradition, knowing that they have no chill and knowing,
And he dipped too.
yeah, and he left them. So I was like, is he setting that, like, is every time he's saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to take you to this great party, he sets them up to be disappointed. But then at the end of the episode, it seems like they're all chill now. They've actually gotten together with his friends now.
Yeah, it's interesting because this whole episode really is about everyone wanting to escape the White Lotus a little bit. If we think about everybody who goes out on the yacht, then we have Rick who wants to go off to Bangkok, and we have the girls who just don't want to hang out by the pool or do yoga because we can do this when we're at home. But yeah, you're on vacation. You paid a lot of money to stay here. Why would you not take advantage of what the White Lotus has to offer? And maybe that's some of what Valentine was upset with. And he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna mess with them a little bit.
Yeah, he's like, I'm getting paid regardless, and this is what they say they want to do, so
Mm-hmm.
sure thing. Well, I know that there are like a million threads that we could pull that came out of this episode, but as we start wrapping up, I wanted us to talk about what we think we might see next week. Obviously, seems like it's going to center around this full moon
Party.
party based on the preview. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you anticipate that we see from all of our favorite characters next week, Micah?
That's a loaded question. So, two things that I thought were important that came out of this episode was we had two truth tellers, presumably. We had Piper come clean with Lachlan about why the family is really in Thailand, and presumably she's going to spill the beans on that to her parents next week. Not really sure what kind of consequences that's going to have, although her mother does seem to be she was fine off her medication this week. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if that's going to be a continuing, like, are we going to see almost a switch here where she is going to be fine off her medication and Timothy is going to be coming more and more reliant on taking it? I have to imagine by this point she's figured out that it's him that's taking the medicine. She's
Yeah.
way smarter than she lets on. But the other truth teller was Rick and coming clean to Chelsea about why he's in Thailand and why he wants to go off to Bangkok. And something interesting too that he said about his father. Obviously, we learned that the man who owns the White Lotus, the Hollingers, murdered Rick's father. But it was also mentioned that they never found Rick's father's body. So I'm wondering, is this going to be a Tim Hollinger? Is it Tim Hollinger? I got to look up his name. I apologize, but that this is going to turn out to be Rick's father.
Oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. Oh, dang, that's a really good prediction.
Jim.
Well,
I'm sorry, it's Jim.
yeah,
Jim
yeah.
Tim. Anyway,
Ooh,
yeah, Jim Hollinger. So I am wondering, because we were very explicitly told that they never found Rick's father.
mm-hmm.
So did Rick's father, who was this supposedly this great Samaritan, transition into becoming this, you know, real estate mogul in Thailand. That
Yeah,
it sounded like this person ended up building the White Lotus Thailand, right?
yeah. Oh, dang.
Because that would be a twist.
Yeah, it would. I
Because
don't
we
even. Oof. Go ahead.
no, I mean, we're told that Rick's mother let him know this on her deathbed,
Mm-hmm.
gave him this name specifically. Rick's never met his father. We're told that he died before Rick was born. That's where my head is going with this.
Yeah,
I don't know if we'll get it in the next episode necessarily, but I think that could be something that we learn before the season ends
yeah,
when they confront each other.
yeah. I think so too. I mean, the rule in television is usually like if there was no body, then you should be questioning if
Yeah.
the person actually died. So no, that'll be a really good one to watch out for.
And then, I mean, I think we're headed for some crazy shit on the yacht.
Yeah.
This is the
Oh,
episode, I think, that if you tune into the White Lotus for wild sex parties, you're going to get it.
yeah. Yeah, you definitely will. If you thought you saw too much of Jason Isaacs, this week, you're going to be able to see a lot more of everybody else next week, I'm guessing.
And I would say the same applies for our friends Jacqueline, Kate, and Lori, because who
Hmm.
knows what they're about to get up to with Valentine and his friends.
Yeah, although I will say, and I think we talked about this last week, I care the least about those three.
Mm-hmm.
I just they're mean girls. It's just they're a trio of mean girls, and one person goes away, and the duo that's remaining is like, all right, let's talk shit about her before she gets back.
Right.
And it's very clear that Jacqueline is not as fulfilled in her relationship as she pretends to be. So she's just kind of an attention whore, honestly, it seems. Like she wants to be noticed. She wants people to pick her out as being a famous person. So, yeah, I find the three of them not super likable. At
Yeah,
the very least, with a lot of the other characters, there are likable aspects to them,
I
or at
agree.
least interesting, you know?
And I do like how some of the character storylines are starting to weave into each other with, Saxon and Lachlan. You have Chelsea and Chloe. Um, Gary's obviously involved there as well. I'm actually most interested to see how the Gary Belinda storyline continues to develop next week. If it really, I don't know that we'll probably spend a whole lot of time on it because it seems like the moon party is probably going to be the focal point, and we know that those two are not out celebrating the full moon.
Yeah. But that means that there'll probably be more opportunities for skullduggery, and we might get to see some of that beginning next week.
I am curious to learn more about Gary and his past. Like you're saying, I do think the whole Bureau of Land Management is a front, and
Mm-hmm.
it's it. He probably was able to get that created, and so if anybody ever looks him up, that's what will
What they
pop
would
up on
find.
Google. Yeah,
Of
exactly.
course. Yeah. And Belinda is smart enough to know that. You can see that when she finds it. She's like, this mother.
Hmm. So
Well, cool. I know we definitely have a lot more that we could talk about, and I'm sure we will talk about many, many more things next week. But for now, we'll leave this here. If you're not already, please be sure that you are subscribed to What the Hype wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Twitch, all of our social media. We are What the Hype Podcast most places. And you can also learn more about our show at whatthehypepodcast.com. But that's it for us this week, recapping on the White Lotus. Micah, thanks so much for joining me.
yeah, no, this was a lot of fun, and it only took Timothy one episode to go for his phone.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it just
I'm disappointed. I thought he could hold out longer.
could any of us hold out longer,
Probably
Micah?
not.
Let's think about this. Like when we were all together for Podcast Movement back in August, if they had taken our phones away, how well would that have gone?
Probably not too well.
I don't think we have any room to talk.
It's fair.
Well, anyway, this has been fun. Thanks so much, y'all. And we'll see you next week for our recap of episode 5. Bye bye.
Bye.
Cool. There we go.
Yeah, it was fun.